Poetic beats. Poetic beats.
This is First GenXers.
Poetic beats. Poetic beats.
All right, what's up, y'all? What's up? You actually missed your logo, bro.
I saw it.
Yeah. Say, all right, so yeah. This is Kev, Dark Lord 100. Next to me is Suave. And we are what will be right to this week. We are what will be this week, the classroom featuring O'Malley. Unfortunately, wasn't feeling well, so she's not going to be with us today. But the reason for the new look, the reason for the new intro, and everything that you just saw is that we have officially reached our 2-year anniversary of First GenXers on Twitch, or affiliate anniversary, and 3 years of First GenXers on Twitch. What's up, Saint? He's out there in the comment section telling us, yo, what's up? He's in the building. So if you want to say what's up to Saint, just go ahead and tap in the comment section. He'll be able to respond back to you. But we are here with you to talk some what will be. Well, actually, wait. If you joined us earlier today for Cheap Pop, then you know that we had a trivia game that we played, and we're going to do the same thing here. It's kind of just the tradition we're trying to start, maybe an every week thing, but most likely just a tradition for special anniversaries. And this week's sports quiz, we did pop culture quiz earlier. This week's sports quiz question is, what is the only country to have played in every single World Cup? Suave, I'll leave you to think about that as we talk about our first subject of the day, and we'll get back to it after we get done with that first subject. All right. So, bro, last week as we were going off air, the Thunder seemed to have the series wrapped up, but it became official about 30 minutes after we went off of the air. The Oklahoma City Thunder are your 2025 NBA champions. And let me just say this. If they're, by the way, Saint says, what's good, Suave? So it was a game that my only regret is the fact that Halliburton didn't play. That's truly my only regret, is because I'm not saying that that Thunder would have lost if Halliburton would have played, but it definitely wouldn't have been a blowout the way it was as it was. Like, I think they won by 15-20 to close out the game. So the game 7, I would have loved to have seen a more interesting game 7 than that one was. So what are your thoughts on the Thunder win and how they won game 7?
Well, to be honest, I feel for Indiana fans. As a Warrior fan, we've been on both ends of this, where there's been injuries that we have capitalized on like you're supposed to in the professional realm. I really do think that Indiana was primed to pull off the upset in game 7. And unfortunately, it seems like calf strains are now leading to Achilles tears. So with that being the case, I think we'll see less players attempting to play on a calf strain than we've seen before. I'm not sure how it seems only recently to be correlating into that, but it
Yeah.
definitely is something that has been happening the last handful of years. I've seen people, lament the length of the season and trying to want to change the format of how many games they play in the season and in the playoffs. Some wanting to go back to a 5 game series for everything but the finals, but I think those are mistakes. You don't want to change what it takes to get to certain milestones and records that the league, because I mean, then it makes records untouchable,
Yeah.
or it puts
Very much so.
asterisks on things. So, but back to the finals. Hats off to Oklahoma City. They did exactly what they had to do. Halliburton went down in the first quarter when it looked like he was going to put the team on his back. He came out super hot. He was scorching hot, matter of fact. Um,
Mhm.
and you
3 or 4 in the first 9 minutes. Yep.
yeah. So I mean, Oklahoma City did what they had to do. They didn't necessarily shoot that well for the game.
Mm.
Indiana definitely had the wind taken out of their sails, and nobody on their team necessarily stepped up, including making really just bad blunders at the end of the game, which really kind of let it get out of hand because it was really just a 10-point lead. And if they could have executed, you think that Indiana could have had an opportunity to maybe do it without Halliburton, especially with how poor Oklahoma City was shooting.
Yeah.
But
They
Oklahoma
definitely made a
City,
game of it in the first
yeah,
half. Sorry. Yes.
yeah. So I mean, the second half, and for everybody that's not Halliburton on the Pacers, they will lament how they played in that fourth quarter, including the bonehead technical fouls that gave free points to Oklahoma City late.
Yeah.
Just curious blunders, especially when they had opportunities. They had a couple of steals. They weren't able to really do anything with them. Those are opportunities that they had to capitalize on in those moments, and they just
Yep.
didn't. So,
Yep.
you tip your hat to Oklahoma City and you feel for Indiana Pacer fans.
100%. 100%. All right. So that was one aspect of it. First, Saint being funny said Halliburton's issue is that he's busy appearing in 2K WWE 2K25. For those of you who don't know, the most recent DLC for WWE 2K25 had Halliburton, Shaq, and Jalen Brunson in it as well. But yeah, so where do the Pacers go from here? Like this was the end of a magical run. They've lost Halliburton for pretty much most of next year. What do they do now?
Honestly, if they were smart, they would retool, manage the salary cap, and essentially do exactly. And I know it seems like every time I'm on the episode, I keep bringing up the Warriors,
Yeah.
but make no mistake about it. What the Warriors did when they landed James Wiseman is what Indiana needs to try and do to strengthen that team in the long term. You already see Boston doing the same thing. They were already flirting with the second apron and the first apron. They started
Yep.
making trades that weren't necessarily in the team's best interest on the
On the
court.
floor. Yeah. I
So,
was gonna say,
but in the
yeah.
long term and the salary cap, you understand that without Tatum and without Halliburton, those two teams really, unless the number two and number three options on both of those squads have light out seasons, they should
Shit.
not be playoff teams, which means they'll be in the lottery and they'll have a
Right.
chance to leapfrog up to the top 5 picks or top 4 picks, which is what both of those teams should be striving for. And then you come back hard the season after that.
After that, yeah. And see, that's what gets me is having that off season. Like what that the year they got Wiseman, that year before they had just come off of that championship run, 2020, and then they won like 20 games, and it was just. I don't think that's going to happen to the Pacers. I think like me and you were discussing it offline. Like me and you see it different ways because I could definitely see the Pacers fighting for a top 6 seed, maybe for that 6, 7 seed, maybe ending up in the play-in next year. But I don't see them falling completely out of the playoffs. Just like with Boston, I think there's enough talent there in Boston that I don't think they'll fall completely out of the playoffs. But they're definitely not going to be a dominant team like a Cleveland or like a New York or somebody like that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the Celtics do have championship pedigree. The outside of losing Porzingis and Drew Holiday, they still have some key pieces where they could make the play in, or at work, at best case, in my view, be a 7-8 seed. But I really don't think without Tatum that they're going to have a strong season. I don't even think they want to have a strong season, which is why they went ahead and started dumping salary to get around that apron.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
talk about that in a little bit. Yeah,
I think
100%.
Indiana's in the same boat. It'll be curious. I'll feel better depending on what they do in free agency and with their own free agents, because as you know, I want Miles Turner to be a Warrior. So if they don't re-sign Miles Turner, that'll be an indication that they don't think that they want to compete next year and they're looking for the lottery. But if they
I'll be honest
re-sign
with you,
him,
bro.
they might they if they re-sign Miles Turner, then they're looking to actually still make a playoff push next year.
I'll say it like this. The news I've heard is from places like First Take is that Miles Turner wants to re-sign with Indiana, so that might not be as hard as we think it may be for them to get him. That sucks for the Warriors, but hey, they can
Yeah.
put him back together. You're right. They can push for the playoffs. That team is good enough.
Mhm.
All right, so now what happens with the defending champs? The Oklahoma City Thunder, I believe, had 2 first-round draft picks this year and have at least 12 over the next like 5 years. They literally
So
have multiple first round draft picks in every first round for like the next 5 years.
So the Thunder are loaded. The question is, do you want to mess with the team's chemistry, or do you want them to continue building on what they've already gotten? My assumption would be you use those picks instead of dealing for a superstar. They could deal for a superstar
Yeah.
potentially. Um,
But they
it'll
already
be
got
curious.
one and 2 potential others in homegrown and not Dort. Who else was it? Well, Hartenstein, I think, is going to be about to be a beast. But go on, Steve Swab. Sorry, that was my bad.
So it's going to be curious to see how they try to affect the team. If you bring in rookies, then you can groom them slowly, let them find their roles on the team. If you use all that draft capital to bring in a superstar, then that definitely changes the team. It could change them for the better, or it could change them for the worse. But I will mention this ownership group failed to want to pay top dollar to keep the KD Russ Harden team together with Ibaka. So they didn't want to even touch the first apron to pay. So now they've got all these guys on essentially rookie contracts. Only like 1 or 2 guys are getting paid top dollar. So it's going to be real curious to see if they even want to bring in an extra superstar with that draft capital, seeming how they scuttled their first chance, because essentially this time they won the chip, but last
Yeah.
time they didn't win the chip and they kind of blew the team up, or started to blow the team up. Um, it's going to be curious to see what the front office does. They are millionaires. I don't know if anybody in that ownership group is a true billionaire or not. It's going to be real curious for Oklahoma City. They finally have a winning product. Will the ownership group do what it needs to do to keep this team together? And that's why I don't think that they'll trade any of those assets. Because if you do, the time has to be now. Why they don't have a ton of supermax guys on their roster before they
Yeah.
become supermax guys.
Very
So
true.
if they don't do it now, then they'll just be bringing in rookies to try to keep the team short up and jettison some of the low hanging fruit off the roster. So they're in prime position. At some point in the next couple of years, they're going to have to pay the piper. I'm gonna be real. It's gonna be real curious to see if they do that.
I think Presti is similar to Lacob. I think as long as they're winning championships, he'll be willing to pay to keep the team together. At least the core, kind of like what the Warriors did. How they made sure out of all the people that they had that they held on to the most important piece were Steph, Clay, and Dre until recently when Clay got scuttled. But the most important pieces to them to re-sign were Steph, Clay, and Dre. Everybody else was kind of interchangeable, and that included Kevin Durant. Want to say, I think what they could do is exactly, I think the best path forward for them is exactly what you said about them taking the players that they have now, signing them long term as they become these superstar players. Like I said, Chet Holmgren, Who else is it? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have Lou Dort. Get these guys locked up to long-term deals, 4 or 5 years deals, and then over the next 4 or 5 years, use those picks, no matter wherever they may land, to continue to keep the team young and continue to keep the team fiery by bringing in a couple of. That's what the Warriors did between 2015 and 2020, is they kept bringing in players to fill in roles while still keeping their core together. I think Oklahoma could do the same thing. Only difference is instead of trying to do it through free agency, Oklahoma City would be doing it through the draft, because a lot of the teams that they have their first round pick over the next few years may not necessarily be that good. So Oklahoma City could be looking at a couple of lottery picks over the next year that are not their own pick. You know what I'm saying? Where they got some NBA 2K shit going on, where they make the playoffs, win the championship, and still end up with a top 10 pick. It could happen to them, you know, without having to have the bad season like what the Warriors did, where they just come off of winning a championship and have a team's pick that ended up in the top 5, you know. So I could see Oklahoma City doing that, because if you do that, then you're doing something that, here's what I always thought the Warriors did wrong, is what the Warriors should have been looking for with the Halliburton deal, and like even when they had the 2 first-round picks and they ended up taking Kuminga and Moody, is they should have been looking for long-term replacements for the big 3. They should have been looking for a top pack-up point guard, which Halliburton could have been if they take him at number 2, the Wiseman year. You know, and then with the Kuminga thing and the Moody thing, I think they did a good job with Moody. And I love Kuminga, but I think there were other players in the draft that year that could have been a better fit and could have helped keep that window open even longer. But this is the way the Warriors will do things. I think the Thunder are going to do things a little bit differently, and they're going to lean more into those draft picks and developing folks. But we shall see.
The only question is, I mean, we have the precedent already. Presti and that ownership group did not pay to keep KD, Russ, and Harden together, and eventually kind of broke them up until KD left, and essentially all they had was Ibaka and Westbrook, and then Westbrook got traded. So hopefully it doesn't happen the second time around.
I'm going to say it like this. I think there's one thing different. Sam Presti rode those 4 on their rookie contracts to an NBA Finals. And unfortunately, they lost to LeBron James and the Heat. I think if they win that title, I think Presti's willing to pay whatever it takes to keep them together. I think that's the difference right there. I think this Oklahoma City team won the chip, and that one unfortunately fell short. All right, so before we move on to the next part of this segment, which will be the NBA draft, we're going to give an answer to that sports trivia question. Do you have any guesses of what it might be? What is the only country to have played in every World Cup?
I mean, honestly, I just got to go with the top dogs that are there or in the hunt every year. I got to go with Brazil.
And for a man that did not have the answer, you had the answer. The answer to that first question of which World Cup team has been in every single World Cup, the answer is Brazil. So here's an easy question for you, boss. This is a lob ball for you. This is a softball lob. Which MLB player holds the record for most home runs in a season? And I'm going to add a little bit more and say, and how many? We'll come back with that answer after we talk a little NBA draft. The NBA draft took place this last week on, what was it, Wednesday? I will say this. The only thing about it is, unless you're going to expand to 5 rounds, cut it with this 2-day shit. Yeah,
it's not long enough for that.
Yeah. If you need more time, then start a little earlier in the day. Instead of starting at 4 p.m., start at like noon. Start at like 1. You know what I'm saying? Don't start at 4 p.m. But like the 2-day thing I wasn't feeling. Because I wanted to watch the first round, and then I also wanted to see who the Warriors took in the second round. So I literally had to watch both nights and spend like 3-4 hours on both nights. Like, nah, man, come on. So the of course number 1 draft pick, Cooper Flag, went to the Mavericks. Dylan Harper. I think that's going to be a sneaker big pick there. Dylan Harper went from Rutgers, went to the Spurs. He's a guard, so he's gonna mix in out there with that Castle kid and De'Aaron Fox, and I think Chris Paul's there too. The 76ers had what was projected to be the number 2 pick, VJ Edgecombe, fall to them at number 3. He's a guard out of Baylor. The Hornets had Knuble fall to them. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And here's the one I wanted to get to. Ace Bailey said outright during the draft combine that he did not want to end up with the Hornets or the Jazz.
Or the 76ers.
Or the 76ers. So he got 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
He got 2 out of 3 that he wanted. But Danny Ainge and the Jazz said, guess what, boy? Get used to Utah. Like, point blank and serious. So Ace Bailey gets taken number 5 by the Utah Jazz. I think he'll fit well with his skill set over there with Lauren Markkinen and them boys. I don't see why he wouldn't want to go play in Utah. Maybe it was where Utah is that made him say no. But, like, to me, the Jazz have an up-and-coming team that could really use a guard with some explosive nature, and Bailey provides that. He definitely provides. Sorry. So what are your thoughts of the 1 through 5 picks, son?
Cooper Flag was a no-brainer. Once Kyrie comes back, I think they'll be a dangerous team as long as Kyrie is healthy when he comes back. I think adding Cooper takes pressure off of the rest of the lineup, specifically Clay and AD. I like that pick. I mean, it was really a no-brainer. All they had to do was not fall on their face. He's the new face of that franchise, so I expect them, even without Kyrie, to be in the mix. It'll take a little bit of grooming, but he'll get his looks and he'll get his points, and he'll most likely be Rookie of the Year. Dylan Harper was the good pick for the Spurs, pairing him up with Wemby and Castle and Vessel. So it's a good young team. They still need a bit of seasoning. They were in the hunt up until Wemby went down, so that's going to be something that we'll want to monitor. Hopefully Wemby's career isn't cut short by things like that.
Yeah, shit. No,
I
not
did
another
like
Greg
the-
Oden, please.
Yeah, I did like the Edgecombe pick by Philly. He definitely feels a need for him. He's already at the training facility for the 76ers doing his thing, putting the ball in the cup, trying to learn. So that was a good one. I'm not sure about the other kid from Duke that went to the Hornets, but we'll see. He's a shooter, got good handles, from all the highlights that I saw. And then now we get to the Ace Bailey thing, and I'm on 2 sides of the fence on the Ace Bailey thing. A lot of people are up in arms that he tried to get around the draft per se, and honestly, he was able to do 2 out of 3. He said, "Philly, don't draft me. I don't want to be a Hornet," and he said, "I don't want to be a Utah Jazz." And regardless for the reason, whether it's there's no way for his family to really visit without paying obscene amounts of money to come out to be flown out there to watch him play, or if there's nothing to do in Utah, so I don't know. But he definitely didn't want to be there. And Danny Ainge said, screw it. We're going to go ahead and draft you. Now, Ace, I'll be honest. Danny, for everybody that said that Ace Bailey needed to be humbled because he should, consider himself lucky to be drafted. When you're at a certain level and know you're going to be drafted, you do have a little bit of leverage. Now, he could have.
You don't have Eli Manning type leverage, but you get leverage, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he could have sat out a year and gone and gotten to another draft and been redrafted. Or he could have gone to Europe for 2 years and been an unrestricted free agent and gotten paid over in Europe. I personally would have liked to have seen him do that. The Danny Ainge saying, "No, if you're going to play, you're going to play for the Jazz," and people like Windhorst saying he has no choice. Yeah, he did. I mean, let's be honest. They say, "Oh, there's not a lot of money between certain picks at a certain level." He lost $12 million by telling the 76ers he didn't want to play for them and by dropping 2 spots. So for him, it's not about the money, it's about the peace of mind. So here's what I predict. He touched down yesterday. Everybody was all over him getting off the private jet, getting to Utah. I think the Jazz, if Ace Bailey turns out to be the truth, watch the Jazz end up with egg on their face. Because if they don't win a title in his first 5 seasons, because what's going to happen is he'll play out his rookie deal and then he'll sign a 1 year tender so that way he can become a free agent after year 5, an unrestricted free agent where they can't match any deal that he gets. So if he ends up being the truth, they've got a 5 year window to win a title or do some type of damage.
True.
Otherwise, Danny Ainge is going to have egg on his face. You know, you use the top 5 pick, you get a guy who told you he didn't want to be there, and if he looks like the truth and you can't convince him to stay, then you
For
made a
sure.
bad choice. And you should
Yeah.
have traded him for other pieces and multiple picks to try to help this Utah team and actually chose people that want to be a Utah Jazz.
Yes. Yeah. Very true. Very true. All right. So let's keep moving it down here. Just taking some highlights of what came after that. You had the Duke center, Kama Maluak, was drafted by the Rockets, but traded to Phoenix. So that one's interesting there.
I would have liked him to
let's-
get traded to the Warriors.
You know, there was that cat I'll talk about in the second round out of Stanford that was just sitting there at 41, and they just passed on him. Let's see. Other than that, not many others that really jump off the page. A lot of centers went in the first round. I wish the Warriors would have had their first round draft pick this year. But the Warriors picked at number 41. That's where we're going to start out next. How Warriors stuck to their plan is what they say on NBC Sports Bay Area. They did not. They traded out of the number 41 pick to Phoenix, and who ended up taking Kobe Brea, a guard out of the UK. Let's see. Then no, where's he at? Then they traded with Phoenix. Traded back with Phoenix to the number 22 pick, who they took guard or forward Alex Tui out of Australia. Let's start there, Suave. You had some thoughts on Alex Tui and his potential fit with the Warriors.
Yeah, he looks like a stretch 4. He's 6'8". He's got guard-like handles. People were kind of lamenting his shot. He only shot like 30-something% in his Australian league last year. But you know, when you watch the videos of him training leading up to the draft, you can definitely see the kid's got a stroke. So
Yeah.
he's definitely going to be a stretch 4. He will definitely get some minutes as soon as he learns the playbook and how the Warriors want to play. He's actually, and it's weird. When it comes to the top picks in the first round, the Warriors have a tendency to draft guys that they force to mold into how they want them to play. But in the second round, they actually draft guys that fit the system and don't need much molding. They just need to have the rawness kind of, you know, shaved off them. So I like the Tui pick. I think he's going to definitely be a rotation player. When you look at the future, depending on what happens with Kuminga, you know, we've got another 2 or so seasons with Butler and Curry and Draymond before they wrap it up. So as it's constituted now, a team with Moody, Kuminga, Tui, and Post, they're not going to be world beaters. But that looks like a solid team and maybe a piece or two away from actually being able to compete.
Oh yeah. And then they also took Will Richard, guard. It was traded to them. They traded with Memphis to get their pick at number 56. And they got the guard out of Florida, the defending national champion Florida Gators. So I like him. I don't know what he's necessarily going to be able to do, because, like, again, we need size. We have scoring. We have Pods. We have Buddy Hield. We have Moody. We potentially might have Kuminga back. Like, we have scoring. We need a big dude to plug in that middle.
Well, I don't think he's going to be – he's not too much of a scoring point guard. He's more of a distributor. That was really his role in Florida. So I think that'll be good for the team, considering that if they do keep Kuminga, he's a black hole and wants to shoot the ball. They want Pods to shoot more because he has good stroke. He just chooses not to shoot sometimes when he should. So they've got other people to put the ball in the basket. They needed more distributors. That's one of the things, if you notice with Pod's game, they wanted him to kind of distribute at first, but then – once they lost Curry, he wasn't willing to pull the trigger on his own shot. So
Right.
now he'll be pulling the trigger. They got another guy who can distribute the ball. So I like this move. I like getting a
Okay.
guy that's got a national title pedigree coming into a situation like this. So I definitely like, if you really kind of look at the Warriors, I could conceivably see a team where you've got, Pods and Richard battling out for that point guard spot with Moody at the two, or Pods versus Moody at the two. Then you got JK, then you got Tui, and then you got Post. So I mean, they've got some. That's a pretty good rotation of young talent right there that could definitely help the second unit.
Amen. 100%. 100%. All right. So that is going to close us down for the draft talk for today. We got a lot of NBA transactions to get to in the next block. So we're going to go ahead and hit that answer. What's the answer to the question, sir? Which MLB player holds the record for most home runs in a single season? Give it to me now.
It's got to be Barry Lamar Bonds.
And how many did he hit?
73.
Bingo,
71?
bango.
Okay.
Swab is 2 for 2 with Barry Bond, with the answer being Barry Bonds, who I believe it was 2004. Was it 2005 when he set the record?
That I definitely don't remember.
So,
But
I know
it
it was early 2000. Yeah, definitely. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Damn right. All right, so that's going to do it for right now. We are going to go to our commercial block. Hold on, let me get to here. And there we go. No, not intro block. No. There we go. There we go. All right, so we have our commercials already and fired up. Please continue to stay with us right here on the First GenXers on Twitch. I am Dark Lord 100. That's Suave, and this is the classroom. We will be back after a quick 4-minute break, and we'll be asking another trivia question and talking some NBA transactions with free agency and the offseason kicking off after the draft. All right, peace.
This is now versus then. This is now versus then. Get on your mark, let's go. This is now versus then. Burning up your radio, still turning up the heat with Poetic on the flow. Got you moving to the beats with the Saint as your host. Shout out the collective, hold it down, we gon' clown, that's the lesson. Where Generation X meets Generation Next, with them bangers from the east to the south to the west. Yeah, this how we do it in Sacktown. Slide to the studio, yup, it goes down. These beats gon' pound, waking the game up, told you it goes down. And this is only the intro. Turn the mics on, shout out to my kinfo. Where you at, y'all? Let's get this started. Turn down for what? We about to start the party. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is now versus then. This is now versus then. This is now versus then. This is now versus then.
to the crib. I'm thankful the most high, let me see all of it. Grateful, I'm lovely, and I'm being real with this. Please don't judge me, I'ma stay on my shit. I'ma keep a grind mode button, push it, make it do something. No balls for me, cause I'm a loose cannon. I get to choose, camera, switch it up, look up a new banner. Keep smoking on that banner.
They say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But the definition of beauty is distorted. Yeah. Come on. Searching for yourself, so insecure about the way you look, so you go to Miami. You can't find the love within yourself.
All right, and we are back. Thanks for sticking with us through that commercial break. We are back with the classroom featuring myself, Dark Lord 100, and the man with the plan, Dirk Suave, Mr. Suave. And we are here to talk. Well, first, let me ask this next trivia question, which is, who was the first basketball player to be drafted number 1 overall without playing college or international basketball? We'll come back with the answer as soon as we talk a little bit NBA offseason. So, we have had multiple things happen since the draft, and it's been a crazy few days. Just today, Jabari Smith Jr. Intends to sign a 5-year. This is the moratorium phase where they can get all the contracts lined up, and then I think they become official like next week, like after the 4th. But Jabari Smith Jr. intends to sign a 5-year, $122 million rookie contract extension with the Rockets. The Thunder intend to sign guard Ajma Mitchell to a new 3-year contract worth $9 million. So they're already keeping the bench together. 76ers guard Eric Gordon is declining his $3.4 million option, player option, but he'll most likely return. Bobby Portis is signing a 3-year, $44 million extension with the Bucks. We had talked about the Warriors potentially going after him a couple of weeks ago. I guess that's now not going to happen unless it's in some kind of a sign and trade for Kuminga. But I don't necessarily see them going that route. But there's been a lot of trades as well. We're going to open up with Drew Holiday traded to the Trailblazers. I don't think this really does anything for the Blazers. I think this is a benefit for Boston trying to dump salary. But what is your thoughts on the move? I believe they got back like Anthony Simmons in return, and
we touched on this a little bit. Boston is cutting salary, so they, getting rid of a guy that is a real good defensive guard. So it'll help Portland a little bit, but I don't think that makes them any closer to being a playoff team just yet. They still got a lot of work to do to round that roster out. But
I think they'll end up buying him out. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off like that, but yeah, I think they'll end up buying him out, and he'll end up signing someplace else with like a contender or something like that.
Quite possible.
So, but yeah, like that was the first trade that came up. Then we saw in a 3-team trade, we saw the Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks, and Brooklyn Nets work a 3-team trade that sent Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Hawks, Terrence Mann, and Atlanta's number 22 pick in the draft to the Nets, and then Georges Niang and a second-rounder to the Celtics. So they did get a player back in return for him, or for Porzingis. So.
Atlanta obviously is in win now mode. You know, Boston's falling off. They've got to shed contracts because they're not going to be a championship worthy team. They could be a playoff worthy team, but they're no longer really in the championship mix unless they just incredibly ball out without Tatum, which I just don't see. But
Right.
I also feel Indiana is in the same boat. So that's two teams. One that was at the top of the Eastern Conference. I believe they were number 2. And
Right.
then you've got Indiana, who I believe was 4 or 5 or something, somewhere around there. So
Yeah.
that's two teams I don't expect to be playoff teams. Atlanta's in win now mode. If Porzingis can stay healthy, he definitely should add and stretch the floor for Trae Young and the rest of that team. So this is definitely a let's try and squeeze out a title run for next year for Atlanta.
For Atlanta, yeah, for sure. Like 100%. Like at least try to run whatchamacallit where you look good, meaning like you're trying to look like you're at least trying to win something. I would, for that price though, I would have loved to have seen him come to the Warriors. I've wanted Porzingis in a Warriors uniform for a very long time.
Not me.
No, I think
Young
he would make
Porzingis, New York Porzingis, yes. Veteran Porzingis, no.
No. All right. In other surprising news, CJ McCollum is traded from the Pelicans to the Wizards for Jordan Poole.
Yeah, that one's a bit curious. I believe it was the Pelicans, right?
Yeah.
So I like this move for Poole. He goes to a team that could use his offensive punch next to Zion. He goes back to a team that's competing for the playoffs. And the Wizards, I don't know if they've just given up. They've honestly, outside of the couple of Jordan years, the Wizards have never been good in my life.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And let me say this.
Dating back to them being the Bullets.
No, the Bullets had a couple of good teams when they had C-Web and
George
Howard.
Morrison, and
Yeah. So they had a couple of decent teams. They weren't championship worthy, but at least they were decent.
Right.
And they looked like they were going to be something special. But if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Rasheed Wallace a Washington Bullet with that team?
I want to say for a little bit, yeah.
With
It wasn't for more than about a season, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say he was with them too, and it looked like they were getting ready to build something. But since the Bullets are defunct and it's really the Wizards have never been. No, let me not say never. They had a season or two where Gilbert Arenas had them looking like they were going to do something, and they just never did. But outside of those flash in the pan couple of seasons, they've never done nothing. So obviously, Poole's had some trouble getting his confidence back after the fiasco that happened with him on the Warriors. He's shown some flashes, but he's still, I don't know. There's something that's kind of hindering him. But he got his big payday, and he still has 2 years left on it, I believe. So he goes to a team that desperately could use his scoring punch and to spread the floor for Zion to be able to drive and do what he does. So I think it's a good move for the Pelicans. I've always liked Poole. He definitely earned his way. He definitely is a winning type player. So he's a guy that can definitely put it in the bucket from way out. I thought he was going to be the guy to help take over for Steph. I'm sure he thought that too until the whole shooting his mouth off and then getting punched in the face and traded. So, I feel for the kid. I want him to do well, and I think he will on the Pelicans.
Well, and that's the thing with it. I think there's space for him to be able to do some good things out there. They gave up McCollum, but Poole is a perfect replacement for him, as Poole has a little bit more of a scoring punch than McCollum had, as much as McCollum was a veteran that could keep the game pulse. I think Poole could. He's a champion, so I think he could help keep the game down for them kids over in Wizards. Because remember, Now, or should I say now, remember, let's look at this also from the Wizards side, that they get McCollum and they just re-signed Kyle Kuzma to a long-term deal. I don't think that they're looking at being – I think they're a play-in team. I think they could potentially be – yeah, bro. I think with that roster, they could potentially be a playoff team.
Not a chance. Lottery bill.
They got McCollum and Olnick in the deal and a future second-round pick. And to the Washington Wizards for Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the number 40 pick. So
Washington is going to be trash.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
Now, if
I've seen worse teams surprise me.
He might be glossing up Kyle Kuzma. I've never been his biggest fan. I thought his best seasons were as a Laker when it looked like he was up and coming. He hasn't really done anything since getting any kind of payday, other than be involved as pieces added to trades. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Washington will be competitive, even with the veteran leadership of McCollum.
Well, remember McCollum was the point guard for those New Orleans teams that made the playoffs but got bounced first by the Warriors. That's how long he's been with New Orleans. Those couple of years where they made the playoffs and got bounced by the Warriors when Anthony Davis was there, McCollum was their point guard. At least I know for one of those runs.
I thought McCollum was with Portland with Dame Lillard.
He might have been. I can't sit here and stand 10 toes down on that one. So, all right. But another interesting trade that happened is in what seemed to be collecting picks and players now. What's his name? Mitchell Williams, I think his name is. Where is it at? Mark Williams, sorry. The Charlotte Hornets trade Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for the number 29 pick, and they drafted Liam McNeely, guard. They also got guard Vasily Mijic and a 2029 first-round draft pick. Wow. I didn't think that this dude Williams was worth that much, but I guess so.
I mean, the Suns are kind of in a win-now mode. They paid the price by having to give up the extra picks. They're trying to do right by Booker. To be honest, they've been trying to do right by Booker. It just hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah.
Now KD is gone. They've got a small, youthful infusion of talent. Booker can continue to be Book. They've got two young centers. Williams will be the starter with the Malik kid coming off the bench, and maybe they even run a 4-5 combo, Twin Towers type of deal with those two. I think that neither of them, I believe, has offensive game outside of the key, so it's going to be interesting to see how their spacing works. But Booker's a shooter. He's not really a driver, so maybe they don't necessarily need the spacing. I'm curious to see how this works for the Suns and how they retool. I'll also be curious to see if the Suns don't try to move Booker somewhere and get in a hall to do a full reset.
We could see that. They're trying to build a team out there. All right, and so what to me was one of the most shocking trades. Who is it?
Lonzo.
Yeah, Lonzo Ball is traded from Hornets, right?
Yeah. Or no, he got traded from the Bulls. It's the other brother.
Okay, from the Ball. Yeah, the Bulls to the Cavs. So this man could be competing. Yeah, Lonzo Ball to the Cavaliers for Isaac Okoro. So, man, like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
I like this trade for Cleveland.
I definitely do. Like, it gives them a backup point guard, because one of their major issues that they had this season during the playoffs and what got them bounced was when their starting point guard, I believe Donovan Mitchell, went down for a game or two or three or four, and they had nobody that could really. So now they have Ball to back him up and to play off ball, or to have Donovan Mitchell play more off ball. How do you think they'll run it?
I'm pretty sure Mitchell's going to be the big dog getting a lot of the shots out. You bring in a guy like Ball, who's kind of like a flirt with the he kind of reminds me of a Jason Kidd from Wish or Temu.
Okay,
he's a guy that can go out there and get you 15 points, 7, 8, 9, 10 boards, and 10 assists. he's that type of guy. He's just not as consistent with it. That's
Yeah.
why J Kid's a Hall of Famer. But I like this trade. It's a guy who can run an offense, doesn't need to shoot, can
Oh,
shoot a little bit, but can also do some things like rebound. Guards getting rebounds is a big thing in the league. If you got a guy that can go out there and get you 5, 6, 7 rebounds, especially from the ones position, then that bodes well for your team because he's going to have the ability to pass it to other guys that are open or pass it to Mitchell and let Mitchell shoot all day. However, it ends up working out for him.
yeah.
He's also could be good in the lob threat with Mobley, which will be something, if you can get Mobley more engaged in the offense, because he was up for Defensive Player of the Year. If you can get him 10, 12, 15 touches a game, half of those being on lobs or
Yeah.
lob threats or cuts to the basket, giving him easy points. That's really what you want. So that way you don't have to rely on Mitchell to shoot the ball 30, 35 times
No
and
shit.
pray that you win. So I
Uh,
do like this move for the Cavs. I'll be honest. Early on, I was not a believer in Lonzo Ball or any of the Ball kids. One of them became a rapper, isn't even playing ball anymore. But
I thought
Lonzo
that was the
looks.
one that I thought Lonzo was the one in Chicago that became the rapper.
No, that was the other brother. He
Oh,
never got to the league. He screwed up his chances as well,
right.
stealing stuff in China when he was at UCLA or whatever happened to him.
You mean
But
Lamelo?
no, it was the one, not the kid in or maybe it was both of them, but definitely the third ball brother ain't never gonna see an NBA court.
Damn.
But Lonzo has been actually pretty good. I like what he was doing with the Lakers before the Lakers blew that entire team up because they got LeBron.
Yeah.
Um, I like the ability and the shooting touch of the other ball in Charlotte, but I don't think he'll be a winning team's key piece.
Okay.
He's kind of Super Bowl dominant. He shoots well, he's got good handles, but other than that, he doesn't really do nothing for the team, which is why they don't win.
Yeah.
So,
You're very
but I
true.
like I like this move for Cleveland. I would like it less if it was the other ball brother going to Cleveland because then he's
Yeah.
just taking shots away from everybody else. But you get the more all around ball brother. I like this move for Cleveland. It shows that they're still all in. It'll be curious to see how his fit works with the team. But since he's more of a distributor and rebounding threat, um, I like this move for Cleveland.
Yeah. The third brother is Leangelo Ball, and he signed with
LiAngelo.
Detroit. He signed with Detroit for a little bit, and that was it for him.
He ain't
And,
never
and he
coming
didn't
back.
even make this. He didn't even make the squad.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go over real quick just a couple of the deals that have been made as far as money flying around the NBA. Money we'll never see. No. The 76ers, Oubre Jr. is picking up his $8.4 million deal. LeBron is, of course, opting into his $52 million deal. The
Of
Thunder
course he is.
have signed their first of their big three. I forgot Jalen Williams was the name of the kid, the number three. He just signed a 3-year, $24 million extension with them. So I'm thinking that Chet Holmgren and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their extensions are probably coming next. Julius Randle signed a new 3-year, $100 million deal with the Timberwolves. Duncan Robinson will decline his $20 million early termination option, and he will become a free agent. That's something to keep an eye out for there. Lonnie Walker the fourth will not be back with the 76ers. James Harden is declining his $36 million deal, but it says he will re-sign most likely with LA on a new 2-year, $81 million deal. 76ers, Eric Gordon is declining his $3.4 million deal. That's another one. I would have wanted him like 5 years ago, but now,
Yeah.
Oklahoma City Thunder intend to sign guard AJ Mitchell to a new 3-year contract extension, $9 million. And then, like we said, Jabari Smith. So what do you think of some of the money that's been flying around the NBA with these guys getting $100 million contracts left and right?
Randall earned his $100 million. He was a real key piece. He's definitely the second option on that T-Wolves team that beat the Warriors and lost to Oklahoma City. He scuffled a bit in the Oklahoma City series, but he's still a darn good player. I liked him as a Laker. I liked him as a Knick. Um, I think that it's a good move for them. It's not a gargantuan deal.
Yeah.
Out of all the moves or all the signings, I think the most curious one was LeBron James opting in on $53 million. Um, he must feel that him and Luca and the team as is uh, can get it done. And I find that curious because this was his opportunity to, I mean, he's already technically a billionaire, or from whatever all the reports I'm hearing and all the Brondashians out there saying he's already a billionaire. So I mean, if that's the case, why not sign for the vet minimum and try to bring somebody in with that money that you're saving? I think Luca is on a lower floor max contract extension. They just re-signed Austin Reeves to a pretty decent deal, something like 20 something million a season. But past those guys, I'd have to look at their roster. I mean, my assumption would be if LeBron took a lot less, they could go out there and get some, unrestricted free agents to bolster the entire team and give him a true last gasp over this season or next to try to get a title, to try and get him his fifth ring. And it
Yeah.
looks to me that he chose the payday and how the team is over trying to help himself get that fifth ring. So I think he's content. I don't,
When it comes to rings, yeah.
yeah, I think it would be different if, let's say, the Warriors had won a ring this year. I think it goes a bit different, and he does go the veteran minimum amount, trying to catch up to Curry with his fifth ring. But I think he
Yeah.
likes his chances of getting his fifth as well as Curry getting his fifth. So since he feels like he has a shot, he's going to take all that money. And I know it's, oh, here's the guy on his armchair saying LeBron shouldn't take $50 million. Look, if the dude's a billionaire and he's been making money, NBA money plus endorsements for 20 freaking years, we just saw a rookie hurt himself in the draft and lose $13 million to go where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
But LeBron can't take a little bit less to help his chances of winning his fifth ring. So I mean, I'm not saying anything that's really out of pocket. He's already
Nope.
earned. I mean, just in career earnings, LeBron's earned, I don't know, $300 million or something
Easy.
crazy like that, or 300 million plus, and that's not even including his endorsements. So yeah, he could have taken a pay cut on his last gas, but he's not willing to do it. He thinks the team's good enough.
There you go. And here's the thing, I understand when people will say, like, who are you to say that you do? Look, man, there comes a point in time in which you have so much money that you could never spend it all in your lifetime, ever. And LeBron James has surpassed that, looped around, and passed it 3 more times with the amount of money that he's earned in the NBA and with his investments and his endorsements. This is where I say, for me, and this is coming from Brokeville, USA, I ain't gonna deny that. For me, if somebody were to ask, I love the game of basketball, I love sports. If somebody were to offer me $5 million a year to play a sport for the next 3 years, I'd be happy. I'd be happy. $5 million over the next 3 years. That means I'm making $15 million over the next 3 years. Now I could turn that into generational wealth. $15 million. So for me, I think I would have a different mentality, but I think what it would be is that where my downfall would be is I would have agents in my ear saying, no, you're worth, if I'm a good player, you're worth 25, 30 million a year. Like, dude, you shouldn't be settling for 15 so the team can say, no, get your money. And I'd have people like that in my ear all the time. But I think genuinely, like, again, once you get to a certain level of money, you have more than you could ever spend in your life. $50 million for 1 year of playing basketball, that's more money than you could ever. $50 million alone is more money than you could ever spend in your life.
Well,
and
not anymore. $50 million doesn't go as far as it used to.
Well, what I mean by that is this: if you live a humble life, like, you know what I'm saying, like, and here's what I'm saying. Here's the difference between me. I don't need 8 cars. There's maybe 3 that I would need, 2 that I would drive around a lot, and then 1 play car would be like that 64 Mustang. Like, you know what I'm saying, that I build my garage. Other than that, I don't need 8 different cars. I don't need a driver to go everywhere I need to go. I can drive myself most places, maybe for the big gala events, get a driver, get a limo, whatever. But other than that, I can drive myself around. I can drive myself to the grocery store and back. I don't need to live in a $10 million mansion. I can live in a $2 million mansion, mini mansion, and be happy. Mainly because in a $10 million mansion, I'm not going to use most of those rooms. Anyway, sorry, but go on ahead, bro.
I will say that now it makes sense with him opting in for the money and not taking even a minimal pay cut of any type. It makes sense about what he said about titles and how they define your legacy, because since he's trying to switch the tune on that, it makes sense on why he would go ahead and just take all the money.
Yeah, very much so. Definitely. All right, so that is going to wrap it up. So we're going to give that answer to that last pop trivia question. Swab, are you going to take another educated guess and try to get this one right? Who was the first player to be drafted number 1 overall without playing college or international basketball?
I mean, I got to say Yao Ming.
Unfortunately, sir. Hey, what's up, Kitty Bradshaw? Thanks for tapping in. We're almost wrapping up here, about to go into the opinion segment. I'll give you one more guess.
I mean, number 1 overall and didn't play. And say the question one more time.
Who was the first player to be drafted number 1 overall without playing college or international basketball?
College or international? I mean, the only guy I could think of would be Yao, but I guess he played in the Chinese league. Maybe no, Bogut played for Utah, so it's not Bogut. Yeah, you got me on that one. You stumped. What was that old show? Stump the Shawarma or Stump the.
For ESPN. Yes,
Yeah.
The answer to this question is Kwame Brown.
Oh, went to high school. Yeah, that's right.
Drafted number 1 out of high school. I don't believe Garnett was drafted number 1. He was drafted straight out of high school, but he wasn't drafted number 1.
Yeah, I want to say he was like the 5th pick to the T-Wolves or something like that. But I forgot. I wasn't even thinking about Kwame. That's funny.
There you go. All right, so we're going to close it out on this. As we normally do, we haven't done one in a couple of weeks, but we're going to do one today. We're going to do a quick opinion segment, and then I'm going to come back and talk to Swab about it for a couple of minutes, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Happy anniversary to the network. Thank you, Saint, for the new intro. And yeah, let's do this. All right, so welcome to Double K's Classroom, where we talk about that I want to talk about. So let's tap in. All right, so I want to talk about the fact that Diamador Lenore was arrested for obstruction. According to this article on NBC News Bay Area, the Los Angeles Police Department said officers stopped a group in the area of West Vernon Avenue, South Whitten Place, and observed a gun in a parked vehicle. The reason for the initial stop wasn't immediately known. When officers asked for the keys to the car, the suspect threw them to Lenore, who kept them from officers before throwing them to a third suspect who tried to hide them from the officers, police said. So my brother, look, we were just talking about making millions. I believe you just signed your rookie extension with the 49ers and got paid pretty decently. I believe you're going to be making upwards of $8-9 million a year moving forward. In the top about 20-25 for starting corners in the league. And this is what you choose to do? Like 2 reasons. First of all, why the fuck you fucking with the police as an NFL star and doing stupid shit like this? Like, that don't make no damn sense. You're putting yourself in a way that you don't need to be. Second of all, as a black man, why are you fucking with the police like this? This could end extremely bad for you, brother. This could have ended extremely bad for you had them officers decided to overreact and fear for their life. Okay? Like just gotta make smarter decisions out there, because kids, it ain't no joke. We're messing with them cops, because they will do whatever they feel they need to do. But I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. But that's kind of my whole thing with Double K's Classroom for this week is that D'Angelo Lenore don't do stupid shit. Warriors rookies don't do stupid shit. Y'all stay on top of your game. Make your millions. Do your thing. Play. You get paid millions of dollars to play a game. What? No matter how you look at it, yes, it's a professional sport, but when you break it down to it, it is a game, y'all. It is a game. You get paid millions of dollars to play a game. Don't fuck it up by doing stupid shit and fucking around and finding out. This has been Dark Lord 100, aka Double KK Double, and yeah, this has been my moment in the sun with the classroom. Peace. All right, bro. So what are your thoughts on?
I mean, some people are going to continue to put themselves in bad situations when they are in envious or enviable positions of life. Ja Morant killed all of his endorsements because he couldn't stop from, owning guns and flashing guns, or at least flashing guns he owned and acting all gangster.
Yeah.
Alden Smith, right? Went, half kilter and said he had a bomb at the airport and, got himself
What
arrested
happened to
and
him?
drinking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I used to say this line a lot. They could have used a friend like Steve because I'll be honest, they just need somebody to say, don't mess up your money. Have your fun when your career is over, especially if you're talking NFL. The average career is only like 3 seasons, if you're lucky.
If you're
So,
lucky.
if you're able to get to that second contract after your rookie deal, you've got to cherish that short amount of time that you're given to earn generational wealth.
Yep.
You've got to be able to, you got to respect it. Now, I'm not saying don't be young or be older than you are.
Yeah.
Kids are going to be kids, young men are going to be young men. But I would hope that they have people in their lives that are going to be like, there's a time and place for that. I mean, case in point, Larry Allen, he didn't get busted with all that marijuana until his playing days were long over and he was trying to make more money.
Yeah.
At
For
least
sure.
he waited till his career was over to do it twice.
100%. So that's the message from us today, folks. If you are in a job or you are making generational money, don't with your money. Go make your money. Don't do stupid things. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us for this week. On behalf of Suave, on behalf of Saint, on behalf of the entire First GenXers broadcast network and Double KK Double Network, we want to say thank you for everybody that tuned in, even those that tapped in late. We appreciate you and we appreciate the support. We will be back next week, hopefully with O'Malley. Joining us to talk more NBA offseason, because I'm pretty sure 8 million other people are going to get signed this week with all the signings becoming official. And we'll maybe take a look at some other sports as well. Who knows? We talk about everything here on the classroom. So be sure to join me next time on my stream for Dark Lord 100 Plays, which I'll be doing on Tuesday with me and Swabs. We had to start a new NCAA thing. So I didn't get a chance to say this on Pop Culture, on Cheap Pop podcast, but screw NCAA. Because and this man right here can vouch for me. Screw college football 25, because we got to the end of what was the maximum amount of years that you could do the dynasty. They didn't have no recap, no little special ending scene, nada. You just couldn't advance it anymore, and I think that's BS. Fix that for 26. If you're only going to give me 30 years, give me some kind of celebration at the end of the 30.
Yeah, or at least make it known when we're starting it that your limit is X amount of years.
Right. And also fix the thing where after about 10, 15 years, you stop giving the little contract thing where you show what your record has been.
You don't get to see none of your history. It was crazy.
Stop all that. That veered into the video game realm there, but it's still sports.
Yeah.
I'll let Suave take us out on the last word. Tell him something good, Suave.
Yeah, NCAA, that 26, I don't know. I'm a little let down with 25, how they ended it. We did 30 hard years or 30 seasons. in this 25. It ended abruptly, to say the least. Had us all confused. We had to go online and figure out why we were stuck where we were stuck. Turns out it was over. They just got to do that a little bit better. So I'm not really, ready to jump on 26. We're going to rerun this next dynasty. Maybe we hold out for one more season, go to 27. Oh, and draft classes need to come back, and so you can bring them into Madden.
Yep. That will be the only reason to get me to buy 26 if I do buy 26 this year. They tell me them draft classes can be uploaded. We're going to do it. So, all right, y'all. So that's going to be it for us. We appreciate you all for watching. This is Dark Lord 100 and Suave. And as one of my favorite content creators always says, we out ya.
Miss you, O'Malley.
You definitely. Let's do it. Come on.